She was just cleaning the Apache's machine gun, her hands steady, her cap pulled low to block the desert sun. The metal was hot to the touch, radiating heat from the day's flight. She worked in silence, sweat dripping down her neck, the faint smell of oil and sand filling the hangar bay. To everyone else on the flight line, Specialist Lena Hart was just another crew member, one more face in fatigues, meticulous about her work but otherwise unremarkable. But then a man's footsteps echoed behind her. She didn't turn. She kept wiping down the cannon, rag moving across the steel like she was polishing memory itself. The boot stopped. She could feel eyes burning into her back. "Where did you get that?" a voice asked, firm, sharp, cutting. She stiffened. Her hand froze mid-swipe, the rag trembling just slightly. Slowly, she glanced at her left shoulder. The patch there was old, faded, almost fraying at the edges. Black and gray, with a skeletal raven in flight. Most wouldn't recognize it, but he had. She turned her head just enough to meet his stare. Captain James Walker, Apache pilot, decorated, respected. He stood like a man who'd just seen a ghost. "It's just a patch," Lena muttered, almost too low to hear. But his jaw tightened. "No, nobody just has that patch." Her eyes narrowed. Her posture changed, shoulders straightening, eyes sharp and assessing. She looked like someone suddenly ready for battle. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then her lips parted. "You were there too, weren't you?" The words hit him like rotor wash. He swallowed, his throat dry. Years of silence broke in an instant. "Yeah," he said softly. "I was there." The desert wind howled outside, carrying dust across the airfield. In that silence, the world seemed to shrink until it was only the two of them, staring at one another, bound by something no one else around them could see. Task Force Revenant. A name buried deep, files sealed, missions erased. Walker had flown for them, once. Years ago. A unit that went where others couldn't, did what others wouldn't. He had thought they were all gone. He had thought the last mission burned every name into stone. But here she was, Lena Hart, a ghost walking among the living. For the next week, he couldn't stop noticing her. On the flight line, she moved like someone who had lived another life, always scanning, always positioning herself where she could see exits, never startled by the roar of engines, but always reacting to sudden silence. He saw her hands shake when someone dropped a tool. Saw her eyes flicker toward the ridges whenever she stepped outside. It was the same as him. The same scars, invisible but carved deep. One evening, long after the others had left, he found her sitting on a crate at the edge of the airfield. The moon hung pale over the desert, silvering the sand. She sat with her elbows on her knees, staring into the dark. He walked up slowly, boots crunching gravel. "Couldn't sleep?" he asked. She didn't look at him. "Don't sleep much, you." He sat beside her. For a long while, they just listened to the hum of distant generators and the occasional coyote call across the barren land. Finally, he spoke. "You don't have to carry it alone." Her jaw clenched. "You think talking helps?" She turned to him, her eyes fierce but wet. "They buried us, Captain. Buried every op, every name, every mistake. Revenant doesn't exist. Not to them. Not to anyone. Not to me," Walker said firmly. "Not to us." Something cracked in her expression. The steel gave way, just a little, to something softer. Pain. Relief. Maybe even gratitude. "You lost people there too," she whispered. He nodded. His chest tightened. "Brothers. I still see them." She looked back toward the horizon. "I wear the patch because if I don't, then it's like they never existed. And I can't let that happen. I won't." Walker's hand flexed on his knee. He understood. More than anyone. Then maybe remembering together is better than remembering alone. From that night, something changed. They began to talk, in bits and pieces. Sharing stories no one else could ever hear. Whispering names in the dark so they wouldn't be lost. He learned she had been Revenant's forward observer, guiding airstrikes through hellish terrain, trapped in valleys where the sky itself seemed to fall. She learned he had flown those skies, tearing through anti-air fire, watching tracers burn past his canopy while he prayed his gunner lived to see dawn. Sometimes they laughed, soft, bitter laughs at absurd memories. Sometimes they cried, silent tears in the shadows. But in those moments, Walker felt something he hadn't felt in years. He wasn't a ghost anymore. Then the test came. An Apache went down during a live fire run. Engine fire, hard landing in the desert. The crew was alive but trapped, flames creeping closer, ammo cooking off. The call went out, rescue team scrambling, minutes ticking. Walker didn't hesitate. He grabbed his helmet, sprinted to his bird. His crew wasn't on base. He needed someone, anyone, for the gunner's seat. And Lena was there, helmet already in hand. "You can't," he said, heart racing. "You're not cleared." She cut him off with a look. Fierce, defiant, alive. "Neither was I cleared for Revenant. Let's go." For a heartbeat, he hesitated. Then he saw the patch on her arm. He nodded. "Strap in." They roared into the night, blades hammering the sky, desert whipping below. Smoke rose ahead, fire flickering orange against the black horizon. Coming in low, Walker called. His voice was calm, but inside, adrenaline surged like wildfire. Lena's hands gripped the controls of the gun. She moved like she'd never left the fight. Calm, precise, her voice steady in his headset. "I see them. Cabins burning. Crew pinned on the left side. They dropped hard, skids slamming sand. Fire licked closer. Bullets of exploding ammo cracked through the night. The rescue Humvees were minutes out. They had seconds. "Cover me," Walker shouted, unstrapping. But Lena's hand shot out, gripping his arm. "You can't. You're the pilot." Her eyes blazed. "I've done this before. Trust me." He stared at her. Every instinct screamed no. But he saw her face, the same fire he remembered from Revenant. Slowly, he nodded. She leapt out, sprinting into smoke. Flames painted her silhouette. She wrenched the cockpit door open, coughing, dragging one pilot free, then the other. Walker's voice filled her ear, calling bearings, guiding her through chaos. Together, they pulled the crew out just as the main fuel ignited, a fireball lighting the desert night. The shockwave knocked them all flat, sand and heat washing over them. But when the dust cleared, the crew was alive. They were alive. Back at base, cheers erupted. The rescued pilots hugged Lena, voices breaking with gratitude. Walker stood a few paces back, just watching. Because he knew the truth. It wasn't just a rescue. It was proof. Proof that the ghosts of Revenant hadn't died in vain. Proof that survival meant more than scars. Later that night, he found her again, alone, staring at the patch. "You saved them," he said softly. Her fingers brushed the faded fabric. "We saved them. Just like we couldn't save," she trailed off, her throat tightening. He stepped closer. "We couldn't save everyone then. But we saved them tonight. And maybe that's enough." For a long moment, she didn't answer. Then, slowly, a tear slipped down her cheek. But this time, she didn't hide it. "We wear them so they're not forgotten," she whispered. "We wear them because the dead can't. And if even one person remembers, then they still live." Walker nodded, his voice rough but steady. "And maybe, so do we." The camera would fade, music swelling, shots of rotor blades chopping the dawn sky, the desert stretching endless and silent. The patch gleaming under morning light. Then the screen would turn black, words in bold white. Some stories aren't written in books. They're stitched into patches, carried on shoulders, and burned into hearts. If this story moved you, like, comment, and subscribe. Share it, so others will remember too. The final note would linger, leaving silence heavy in the room.